Welcome to the Agent to Agent podcast, the show that connects you with top real estate professionals across the country to uncover what life is really like in their communities. So whether you are a fellow real estate agent looking for a trusted referral partner or somebody who's thinking about making a move, you'll find insider insights into what life is like in each of these communities to help you feel right at home no matter where you land. So let's jump in.
All right, everybody. So welcome back to the Agent to Agent podcast. Today, I am joined by Ashley Harwood out of Boston, Massachusetts. Ashley has been in the real estate business for 12 years. She's an agent, a coach, trainer, national speaker, and even author who specializes in working with introverts, specifically with real estate, and also is an advocate for the KW Wellness Introvert. So without further ado, I don't want to speak too much about her and let her speak a little bit about herself. I'd like to welcome Ashley Harwood to the show. How are you doing, Ashley?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I appreciate you joining us as a guest on the podcast today. I'm really excited to share with our viewers a little bit about you, how you got into the real estate business, and just who Ashley Harwood is in general. So I guess we'll jump right in. So you tell us a little bit about you. How did you get into the business? What really attracted you to it? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I got into the business after thinking about it and looking into it for years, like literally years, and just trying to find the right time, because it is a very unique business in that you get into it and you don't make money right away. And sometimes you don't make money for a while. So I had to find the right timing in life for that situation. But I jumped in full time. I got my license while I was working in retail, and then took the plunge and jumped in full time to real estate, and got into a lot of training, did a lot of cold calling, and finally made it happen. It took about 3 years to feel like it was a successful endeavor.
Okay. And how did you find the business? How did you find yourself in the business? Does it feel like a lot of our guests, they've had their own unique path in getting in here, and it wasn't necessarily that they planned on getting into real estate, they just kind of like found it. So what was your journey like getting into the real estate business?
I'm one of the strange ones. I have always been interested in real estate, even from being a child. And so it's just a matter of timing. I looked into it right out of college and realized, okay, that's not the right time because I'm out of college. I need a job that pays a salary. And so it's just, and then I was in this retail space and getting kind of frustrated with the lack of opportunity. And I said, you know what, maybe it's time to revisit this real estate idea. So the first thing I did before I even got my real estate license or started school for it is I read the MREA book. I was just reading books about real estate. That one came up. I had never heard of it. And I bought it and read it, and I was like, oh, this makes sense. I think I might want to do my business this way.
Yeah.
And then I got my real estate license, and I went, and while I was going through the licensing, or like waiting for the test or whatever. Actually, the whole thing only took me about a week, so it wasn't a prolonged process. But I went and interviewed all these different companies, brokerages, trying to find something that matched up with what I read in this book, not putting two and two together.
Just thought it was a general real estate book, right?
I did. I'm like, oh, this is such a great resource for people in the real estate industry. And so I went and interviewed all these brokerages, and I'm like, tell me about teams. Tell me about admins. And most of them had no idea what I was talking about. And then I found KW, and I was like, oh, right. Okay. This makes sense.
Okay. So during your interview process with all of these different brokerages, was it did you come to interviewing with one of your local KW offices, and then that's when two and two got put together? Or did you realize, did you come to that realization before that?
Nope. I walked into my team leader's office and saw the book on his desk and had my aha moment. And then I felt like an idiot for not realizing it sooner, but oh well.
No, I don't think so. I feel like, Keller Williams is a I feel like it's a very recognizable brand when we're in the business or in the industry. But especially when the millionaire real estate agent, I mean, there's no other than the colors, which we probably know now, right? Red and white and a little bit of black. Like there's no like Keller Williams branding to the book, and I think it's very much because it's supposed to be kind of like that agnostic playbook, if you will, across. Doesn't matter where what brand you represent, you can actually take that playbook and run with it. What was you read that? So I think that's very. I mean, you as an introvert yourself, right? I'm curious, like, what spoke to you most about that playbook that you're like, oh, this is it? Like, what was one of the big first ahas that kind of came to you?
It was the idea that there's a lot of opportunity in addition to quote unquote just selling houses, because there's no just about it. It's a lot of work and it takes a lot of skill to do that at a high level. And there's so much more opportunity. I saw this idea of this team structure and taking a business to the 7th level and building something that could not only be 7th level out of to get me out of the day-to-day eventually, should I choose that path, which I ended up not choosing that path, but it was exciting to know that that was possible and that I could build almost my own company within a brokerage to step out of eventually, or even sell to somebody else, or there's just so many different things you can do with it. So that's what excited me. I didn't even know I was an introvert for the first few years in real estate, though. So that wasn't part in the beginning.
Okay. So that was kind of like something that you discovered on the journey, on your real estate journey.
Yeah.
So how did that play out, as you kind of discovered that about yourself, if you will, right? Like one of the pillars of the book, right, is leads, listing, leverage, right? And at the very beginning of our career, Gary talks about it, you have a lead problem until you that's your first problem, right? So leads, definitely requires a lot of conversations, and you had mentioned cold calls and things like that. So how did you build the foundation of your business from a lead perspective as you started discovering maybe the introvertedness of yourself? Like how did all that play out as you grew?
So I was doing a lot of different things for lead gen at the same time. I was basically doing everything I was taught to do. So I was spending my mornings cold calling. I was spending my afternoons, evenings, lunches, sometimes a breakfast meeting, but going to networking events, meeting people in person, because I didn't have a sphere locally. I didn't grow up in Massachusetts. So I had to go meet people, build a sphere of influence. And I was doing these different things concurrently, and I was seeing very, very different results. I was seeing crashing and burning with the cold calls and finding a lot of success with the networking. So eventually, and it took a couple years of me just running myself ragged, doing all of these things, to learn that I really needed to take my time back and go all in on the networking, because that's where I was seeing results.
Okay. So were you networking? Was it like BNI groups? Was it you building your own type of networking things? Was it just getting community involvement, being a servant leader? Like where did you really plug yourself into to build that sphere for yourself?
I would at least once a week Google networking events in my area. So I discovered Meetup, Eventbrite. I got involved with the Chamber of Commerce. Eventually, I was able to get myself a seat in a BNI through my networking contacts. There was a new chapter forming, and I was able to get a seat there. But yeah, I had to go find these groups to go build a network, because I didn't know anybody for anything. I had like 50 people I knew from my old retail store, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. So are these still the foundational relationships that drive your business and support your business today, or have you expanded in other avenues?
Well, at the moment, my business is about 50% real estate sales and 50% coaching, selling books, teaching classes, all these other things. So the scope of my business has shifted a little bit. But I would say, yeah, networking is still a key pillar for my lead generation for real estate.
Okay. And so you serve the Boston, Massachusetts market, right? Or the greater surrounding area of the market?
Yeah, a good chunk of Massachusetts.
All right. So tell us a little bit. Tell us a little bit about Massachusetts, about the Boston area, right? I'm assuming that there's like city life, right? But I'm also like, when I think of Boston, I think of like the city, which maybe that's just somebody who's not in there. I think we all would think about the cities, but like, what's the I'm sure that there's suburbs around, small towns and cities around that. So tell us a little bit about the area. Like, what's so attractive about Boston, the Boston, Massachusetts area?
I feel like there's a lot of variety. There's a lot of variety, not only in different things you can do culturally, restaurants. There's so much history here. That's one of my favorite things. I grew up in Michigan, and so coming to the Boston area, it's like, this is where the country was born. And everyone in Philly, don't come for me, because I understand there's history there too.
Yeah.
But you walk around downtown and it's like, this is the old state house where the revolution started, and this is the bar where all these dudes decided to start a revolution. And it's like, it's all just right here. You get to walk through Paul Revere's house that's been there for 400 years. So
Cool.
It's so cool, and it's just all right there. So in terms of the real estate, it's fascinating. One of the other things I do on the side is I write articles for Housing Wire. I just finished up one about pricing, and I'm having to really think about pricing through a national lens, because pricing homes in the Boston area, we struggle with our comps, because we've had 400 years of people putting up properties and changing zoning and adding to land in different ways. So we don't have cookie cutter neighborhoods in general. Over the past 30, 40 years, there have been a few, but the majority it's very piecemeal. So pricing is a fascinating challenge here for us.
Interesting. So how does that impact your conversations with clients? I guess particularly more so with like sellers, right? Like, are they aware of those nuances, or is that kind of like the educational piece that you're having to have, conversations that you're having to have with homeowners when it comes to pricing?
Most people don't sell homes very often, so there's always an educational component. But I think it's just sharing with them that when we're looking at the different comps, not just the solds, but the pendings, the actives, we need to look at a more complete picture and think about what the same buyer, what other homes they would be looking for, even if it happens to be a little bit bigger or smaller or a different style. Because we're not going to find a cookie cutter comp on the same street that sold in the past 3 months. It's rare to find that.
Right. You really have to put on the buyer shoes, it sounds like. It's kind of like, what are the other options, since there's not cookie cutter options to compare against? Like, what else are they going to be looking at? Because that ends up being your competition.
Right. So it's pretty interesting.
Awesome. How would you describe your approach to servicing your clients? And I just want to take a little bit of time like talking about this. I know you've got so many other things that I'd love to delve into, like your authorship, like your coaching and everything like that. But definitely just kind of want to give our audience a little bit of an idea as to like your service approach with your clients.
It's a very consultative. It is very, very low pressure. I pride myself on that, and I attract most of my clients because they like that. And I know that I've lost some business because of that too. If somebody wants the extremely aggressive killer agent, I can put on that hat when I need to in negotiation, but that's not my natural style.
Right. So, but you attract the people that you ultimately would like to be in business with. And then, right, those relationships find you, and you find those relationships. And I feel that we could argue that you have a better collective clientele just because the connection is there from that.
I do. And the only reason I say that in the negative sense is for anyone listening who's maybe newer in the business, it can feel very strange it can almost feel like a rejection if somebody doesn't want to work with you. And I'd encourage anyone listening to just reframe it. It's not a rejection. It's simply not a match. You're not going to be
Right.
matched for every client, and I'm not going to be matched for, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think as newer agents too, or even when we're not necessarily newer agents, but maybe we're just in a kind of like a lull of the business, or we're just going through kind of like a slow part of the business, like those no's or those rejections, they can hit harder, and
Yeah.
it's not necessarily because you did anything wrong. It's just, to your point, it's just we're kind of like matchmakers at the same time, right? And the people who we serve have to be a great match, just as we need to be a great match for them. So I can completely echo exactly what you're saying there. I think we both know that in our business, relationships are key, whether that's client relationships, agent to agent relationships, or just relationships just with people who are in our world. So I'm curious, when you think about building relationships, right? I guess specifically, maybe since this is an agent to agent podcast, right? When you're looking to build relationships with other agents, um, how do you, how do you look at bringing value to the table for them? And this may be a great segue into like your coaching and your authorship, because I feel like that's one of those ways. But like when you think about building relationships with new connections from an agent perspective, like how do you do that? What's your thought process, or what's your, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, I always lead with the resources that I offer through my programs, my coaching. I have a lot of free stuff. I have a free weekly call that we do book club. We go through different chapters of the book. I do a monthly webinar with KW Wellness that's free, open to everybody. And in general, when I'm talking about referral relationships with other agents around the country, it's really just me being a resource for them and their clients. I'll give you an example. I had an agent refer me a buyer they were coming here from DC, and they were going to buy a condo for their adult daughter who was starting a post-grad um, program at Harvard. So I spent a day with the father, drove him all around, and we looked at a lot of properties. We found 2 great ones. Come to find out, they changed their mind after all and decided they wanted to rent instead of buy. So a lot of agents could be upset about that, or you could just think, okay, you now have this great relationship with not only the client, if they ever do change their mind and want to buy, but more importantly for me is the relationship with the agent, because I know that she's going to continue referring me business because I took such great care of her client and handled it with grace and respect when they change their mind. Like, okay, of course, that's right for you. Totally understand. I'm here if you need anything locally, that sort of thing.
That's awesome. Keeping the relationship forefront of mind, not just the transaction, not just the present transaction that was there or is no longer there. So I think that's great. So I'll do a little pivot, I guess, from, since you wear many hats. Love to learn a little bit more about your coaching. So I know that, like in Keller Williams, we've got, we have our MAPS coaching program. Are you part of that program? Is this just your own program? Like, how long have you been coaching? Um, I just like rapid fired like 20 questions at you. Feel free. Feel free. I got to get better at that. Just picking one, but tell us a little bit about your coaching. Like, how did you get into that, and what's that about?
I will. Yes, thank you. I'm not part of MAPS. I have hired MAPS coaches in the past. I think it's a great program. For me, it was important to keep my coaching brand agnostic so I can work with clients in every brokerage. So it's a very different type of coaching. It's really more consulting at its core. I do a lot of business planning with agents where we sit down, we actually create their business plan together one-on-one. I have a group coaching program that I run that we meet weekly, and that's great for people who just want somewhere to go and have their voice heard. It's a very small group, so everyone gets a chance to share if they want to. But the core of it is really to fill this need of coaching and consulting for the introverts. I'm never going to be the person who's like, hey, how many cold calls did you make today? Because you know what? That's great. And there's plenty of other coaches who do that style. There's plenty of
Yeah.
people who have that. So my people, they need something a little bit different. They need something more tailored, more custom, and just more understanding of not only using your time in the best way, but using your energy in the best way.
Yeah. Well, I can appreciate that because I feel like when you talk about energy and, if you have one of those coaches who are talking about how many calls did you make or all of that, like from an introvert's perspective, I could imagine, because I feel like sometimes I feel introverted, but it's like the emotional energy that has to be expended to do those things that are kind of like outside of that comfort zone, I guess, if you will. What do you, when you're coaching, one-on-one coaching, or even in the group coaching, what do you see kind of like an overarching, I don't want to say message, but approach? Like, how are you coaching the introverts to build on those relationships, or capture those lead opportunities, new business opportunities, when I feel like, and it may be a misnomer, right? Or just not fully understanding, but I feel like from an introvert perspective, we think it was like, oh, we just don't want to talk to anybody, right? So it's like, how do you, like, what does that strategy look like? How are you able to help coach those introverts to build businesses?
So the biggest gaps that I see that I help people fill in is confidence, which is
Okay.
a lot of times just a mindset shift from I don't want to bother people, so I'm not going to follow up with them, to they really need my help, so I should probably follow up with them. That's a huge mindset shift that helps my clients build confidence. Secondly is I don't believe in making business harder than it needs to be. So I always like to start with filling in the gaps and looking for opportunities to improve your conversations and increase your conversations where you're already having them. So a lot of times this looks like
Okay.
just looking for, tell me about your week. Where do you spend time? Where are you doing things and interacting with other people outside of real estate? And then how can we make those interactions more strategic? Almost so you're killing two birds with one stone. So you don't have to go expend double the energy. You can just make this energy output over here on the soccer field with the other parents more purposeful.
Gotcha. So just being present and being strategic and purposeful with what you're already doing.
That's where I always like to start. And then usually we do need to add in one or two additional things. But starting with where you're already spending time and energy is the best place.
Awesome. And what do you see yourself, because I know you're kind of split, right? You said 50% you're kind of doing agent, and then 50% you're doing the coaching. And then I guess, well, in coaching writing, right? So like, does your passion for like growth, like where do you see the evolution of you as a professional and your career? Do you see it migrating more and more into the coaching aspect, becoming more and more kind of like as in authorship or writing, or do you see them really feeding each other into just this overall arcing brand that you're looking to build?
I've spent a lot of time thinking about this and doing different things, having different goals. I've been coaching now for almost 7 years. So this has
Okay.
been a long time building this brand and this business. I'm proud that the book is finally out. That was a long time coming. But right now, I'm really enjoying this balance of doing both, working with clients directly and working with agents. I'm liking both. So I think I'm going to keep that going for a while. And if one aspect takes off more than the others, that'll be great. I would like to speak on larger stages and write a second book down the road. I also, to be totally honest, I'm not sure how AI is going to change the landscape of all of this. So I don't know. I'm kind of in the just enjoy the day to day right now and not worry too much about the 5-10 year plan.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Yeah, I think that AI is kind of, that big unknown. Like, we really just don't know how that's going to impact. I think that we all can agree that it's going to help elevate our businesses and our industries, but how is that going to actually play into the nuances of how do we need to position and pivot and change? I think that those are those are the unknowns that we just kind of, I don't want to say have to wait and see, but just need to be present of and kind of work with. So I know that, so I definitely want to chat about your new book. I know you have a new book that's out and you do a weekly book club. And I think it's something that you're super passionate about. So talk to us a little bit about, the book. What is the book about? I think it's definitely, well, I'm not even going to say anything. I'm going to let you talk about that. But yeah, so tell our audience about the book.
It is a book for introverts in real estate. It's very helpful for introverts in all industries. The examples are all real estate related. So it's a great gift. It's a great book for yourself. Most of the people I talk to, after they hear me speak or they see me talk somewhere, they're like, okay, you know what? I think I'm more introverted than I thought. I hear that a lot. And then on the flip side, from some people who are very, very extroverted, I hear, wow, that helped me understand my spouse or my partner better. So all around, I think it's an important topic for everyone to be more aware of. We cover in the book energy management, time management, and lead gen. And I talk about how to actually do the business of real estate as an introvert. So like your contract to close process and all of the peopling that needs to happen during that process.
Peopling, I love it.
Yeah. So it's good. And then I figured I made the chapters very short. So there's over 50 chapters. And so I was like, well, naturally, we should do a weekly book club and every week just talk about one of the chapters, the concept. So we meet on Zoom. It's free. It's open to everybody. And then I record them all and put them on YouTube so people can catch up.
Right. Okay. That's awesome. Now, did you write this book? Is it kind of like is it like, I don't want to say a manifesto, right? But is it a culmination of just like your experience in your journey as a real estate agent and taking those lessons and those struggles that you had kind of as you found out how introverted you may have been or you are, and kind of like laying that down and providing that as a framework or a guiding light for the people who are reading it?
Yes, it's very much based on my own experience and what I've seen others experience through all these years of talking to agents and teaching classes and hearing what they're going through. So I do have several contributors as well. I reached out to my community, and so I have lots of quotes from other agents and their stories. But yeah, the framework is my story.
I love that. What would you say, speaking, if introverted, even extroverts who may be like, listening to this, what would you say is like one of the biggest misconceptions of an introvert that people think or label introverts, right? That may not necessarily be accurate, or maybe it's accurate and just not just not thought of the right way, right? Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And that's a great question, because there are a lot of misconceptions. Probably the biggest one is that you can spot an introvert in the wild. And that is usually not the case, because a lot of us, especially in real estate, we have either learned or adapted to become very social. And a lot of introverts are outgoing and enjoy people, but internally it's extremely draining. And that's where it can be, I don't want to be too like dramatic about it, but it can be almost dangerous when you're experiencing that for yourself and you don't know why. Like if you're draining yourself every day, if you're burning yourself out all the time and you're not knowledgeable enough about your own energetic needs to be taking breaks and replenishing energy, that's when people burn out.
Gotcha. Now, do you find that, and maybe I want to try and make sure I guess I ask this, or it makes sense. It's like, do you find that like, can somebody be introverted in one respect and like not introverted in another respect, right? Like, can somebody be like where it's like they love hanging out with people or friends, right? Just like to, hang out, enjoy the moment, or do things that they love, right? And their interactions in that capacity isn't really that draining, but then become more introverted when it comes to, like, say, the business side of things, right? Where it's like, well, then they don't want to be, to your point, they don't want to be bothering people or asking for the business, or kind of putting themselves out there. Like, can somebody be introverted in that sense and not necessarily in the other sense? Or is it really that's just kind of, it's just an introverted nature across, I guess, across everything? And I don't know if the way that I frame that, I hope that makes sense how I asked that question.
It does. It does,
Okay.
yeah. So what you're describing is how it shows up for people,
Okay.
and the difference between interacting with certain people being energy using, energy draining, or energy recharging. That is very situational. So yes, somebody can present very outgoing, comfortable, confident in one scenario with certain people, and then present a totally different way where you're kind of wallflowering in the corner in a different scenario. There are a lot of factors to that,
Okay.
including just how the main thing is how your energy is. So, like, think about if you go to, I'm going to use a networking event as an example. Go to a networking event, but you are sleep deprived and haven't eaten enough that day. You're going to be showing up differently than if you're well rested and excited and well fed and like, okay, let's go. So
Yeah.
that's less introvert versus extrovert and more just how you're feeling about the situation due to all these other factors.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's not a black and white kind of a thing. There's
It's
a lot of
not a
different
black and white. No, it's not. And I take people through in the book. I have a couple chapters on how to identify your energy drainers and your energy
Yeah.
rechargers and start to see patterns in your own life. It makes it hard for me to talk about because it's so personal and everyone is so
Mhm.
different. So it's more like, here's a guide to figuring it out for yourself.
Right. Kind of like the framework to help you self-discover
Yeah.
that for yourselves. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So do you have anything, kind of wrapping up here? Do you have anything coming down the pipeline from, any more titles coming? Do you have any more different types of coaching, or, like, anything that's coming down the pipeline, or new projects that you're excited about for yourself?
Yes, actually, I'm going to start doing this once a quarter. I've done one of them so far. It's an in-person event, and
Okay.
they're small, like 10, 20 people max. Part mastermind and part mini retreat, which is a little bit of time without your phone.
Ah,
So,
okay.
yes, the next one will be October 3rd, and then plan to do one in the winter, one in the spring, and just, for a year. But the first one we did in the summer was really, really nice. It was here in the suburbs of Boston,
Mhm.
and it was just a great chance to, like, talk with other agents about business. Obviously, we talk lead gen because that's everyone's biggest issue
Yeah.
usually. And then we had lunch, and then everyone just kind of went off and either took a walk or journaled or spent some time processing. Because what I see a lot is we go to classes and trainings, and then we jump right back into business, and we don't take the time to process anything through it and make a plan of action.
Very true. Very true. I love that. I love that. So where can they, so Move Over Extroverts, I think that's the name of your book, right?
That's
So
the name.
where can people go to pick up a copy?
So they can go to the website with the same name, Move Over Extroverts. That's my website. There's a link to the book. It's on Amazon. It's on the Barnes & Noble website. And it should be on any website you go to buy books. Hopefully, if my publisher did what they said they're going to do.
You can be found anywhere.
I hope so.
Anywhere. That's awesome. I love that. Well, and where can our audience connect with you? So on social, right? Are you Instagram, Facebook, YouTube? Like, where can they go to connect with you and everything that you do?
I'm on all three. Probably the best place is either Instagram at Ashley Harwood Realtor or on Facebook. I do have a free Facebook group that's called Introverts in Real Estate. So they can join that.
Awesome. Introverts in real estate on Facebook. I think I'm going to give that a, I'm going to go and give that a take a look at too, because there are times where I feel like I feel like a lot of what you were talking about. So maybe I can self-discover a little bit about myself.
Totally.
Your resources. So that would
I
be
post a lot
awesome.
of memes
You post a lot of memes?
in the group. Yeah.
Okay, well, I love memes. My creative aspect is not such that I can create the memes, but I am a consumer of great memes.
Oh, I don't create them. I steal them and reshare them. So
reshare them?
clear,
Okay.
yeah.
Maybe I should start doing that too. That could be helpful. See, look, we have these conversations and everybody can learn something. I learn something about everybody who I talk to, and they let me learn a little bit about myself too. So I absolutely love this. I love this. But is there anything that you would like to leave our audience as we wrap up today? Anything you want to leave our audience with today?
Just get to know yourself a little bit more. Get to know yourself and what your energy needs are. And if you're listening to this and are feeling just really overwhelmed and burned out, take a break. It's going to be okay.
Awesome. I love that. I love that. Take a break. Something that we struggle with as agents. We don't typically take a break. So awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ashley Harwood, everybody, the author of Move Over Extroverts and your go-to agent partner in the Boston, Massachusetts area. Make sure that you connect with her on Instagram at Ashley Harwood Realtor, right? And then on Facebook with her. Is it Move Over Extroverts Facebook group?
Nope. Introverts in real estate.
Introverts in Real Estate Facebook group. So connect with her on all things social. So Ashley, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I really enjoyed our conversation today, and we'll see everybody else on the next episode. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to the Agent to Agent podcast, where we connect you with the people and the places that help make moving feel easier. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to follow along for insider looks at communities across the country. And connect with me if you'd like help getting connected with a trusted agent no matter where life takes you. We'll see you next time.